Brodes Media.
What is going on, everyone? Very proud of the Sixers tonight for stopping the bleeding. We'll talk about it all, but first, if you're new to the channel, make sure you're smashing the subscribe button and you're hitting the thumbs up button as well. I love you all so much. You're so damn fantastic. Thank you for all the support. And real quickly, if you're looking to go to any NBA, NHL, NFL games, you can utilize the promo code Brodes at SeatGeek for $20 off. I'm basically handing you $20. Take it. Take it from me. You're eliminating the fees right from the jump. It is a no-brainer. Get yourself to a game today. Look at the schedule coming up. Seriously, promo code Brodes, $20 off. It's awesome. It's awesome. So with that being said, enjoy the show. What is going on, everyone? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Brodes. The 76ers did something they desperately needed to do. They had to stop the bleeding. And you know what's funny? I don't want to get sidetracked too early, but here I am. This is absolutely going to happen. I tried to stress to everybody over the last handful of years when the Sixers fell at home to a team that they shouldn't. And maybe that's a bad example, right? Because their home record has been strong for the last few seasons. So I take that back. But when the Sixers would lose on the road or would lose to a team that they should easily annihilate, the frustration would be, there's no way in hell you should lose to that team. And I try and tell everybody, it happens all the time. Well, the Denver Nuggets are at home, and they just lost to a team without Joel, without Danny, without Matisse, without Ben Simmons. And I bring this up to you because sometimes it's not your night. Sometimes guys can't get anything going. Now, the Joker, he kept them involved for as long as possible. Malone's out there being a lunatic, trying to get the team fired up. But when you look around, Aaron Gordon couldn't get going. And yes, Jamal Murray not available. That's a significant piece to who they are. But they win a lot of basketball games too. Like, they still have their team intact for the most part outside of him. And I'm not downplaying how much of a loss that is, but my point is that team, that Denver team was winning games. They were in a groove. They were winning in Denver. And then here comes an undermanned 76ers team and they fall. It just happens. But I give credit to the Sixers because they needed this. They really did. The bleeding was happening. They were losing a lot of games. The momentum was going in the wrong direction. And tonight, there was a lot of solid pieces. Bassey, he had 3 blocks, 1 steal, grabbed 7 boards, had some field goals in there too. He finished 5 of 7. He had 12 points, so he was on the board, and he was an energizer bunny. I thought Doc Rivers really described it perfectly, where he's one of those players that the team is rooting for so much that when you see success and you see good things being generated, it just naturally has like this vibe surrounding the team. Like, yo, look at Bassey, look at how he's playing, and it rubs off on everybody else. Seth Curry was making tough twos. Didn't have, if you look at the box score right and you look at the three-point shooting, it didn't have the splash that you would like to see, but I thought he made some tough twos. He had 5 assists in there, so he was passing the best ball. I thought he made some nice passes, but he really did make some difficult shots in there, and there's something to be said about him taking that step. And this year, we look at him at times and go, damn, like, holy hell, Seth Curry just having that, like, mentality with it, that attitude with some of his scoring ability. And, I thought you saw that on display at times tonight. Tyrese Maxey, he just continues to be magnificent. And you could talk about he finished with, 9 of 15 from the floor? Yeah, 9 of 15 in 35 minutes. You could talk about his burst, which is extremely impressive. And by the way, teams are going to have to respect that so damn much where they back off of him. And then now it goes, hey, can you hit that jumper? If you can nail that jumper consistently, pick your poison. Play up on him. Okay, that quick step, he's going to explode. And if the ball is swinging, sometimes he's moving as the ball's coming to his hands and he's flying right by you. Good luck standing in front. So if you want to pursue him and get into his grill, well, then you know that you can get torched. And then if you want to sag off because you don't want to get beat, and Tyrese Maxey can explode to the rim and kiss it off the glass or hit you with the floater, or hell, maybe even just drive and kick out to find one of his open teammates. Well, if you want to play that way, well, then he can knock down that shot. He's been hitting his threes lately. He's been improving in that area. Versatility is the way to describe how he's been able to improve with his game, and he's going to be a weapon. It's going to be scary if you're on the other team. Good luck picking which way you would like to go with him. But what impresses me the most out of all this, 35 minutes, 0 turnovers. And it's something that I absolutely highlight when I sit down here in the studio and speak after the games, and I'm not going to stop because it impresses me more and more and more the longer this continues. You look, 40 minutes, 1 turnover. 40 minutes, 0 turnovers. 40 minutes, 0 turnover. How? It's almost honestly to the point where it makes 0 sense to me that you don't just, like, fluky. It's basketball, right? You make a bad pass. Like, it happens. It's barely happening with Tyrese Maxey as a primary ball handler, and you're playing with bench players. Bassey's playing. Furkan Korkmaz is logging in minutes. Like, these players, they're not your starting caliber players over an 82-game window, and he's still staying with the turnovers being limited, right? Like, you would think maybe there would just be mistakes, or it's tough because you're not accustomed to playing with some of these guys a lot, so you expect a cut and a cut doesn't happen, or you're waiting for something else to happen and there's just miscommunication. No, 35 minutes, 0 turnovers. I want to be all excited about the threes, which I am. Let's not downplay that. I am stoked about all that. I'm stoked about the passing. I'm stoked about it all. I'm stoked about how the game has slowed down for him, and he's starting to just make consistent professional decisions, and he's keeping this offense at times like it's flowing because of the way that he is playing. And at his age, being so young with a lack of experience, it's crazy that it's this successful and it's this solid. But I'll tell you what, I can't get over the turnovers. Every single game, I'm in awe. Every single game, my mouth hits the floor because I'm stunned. And I'm stunned of like, wow, I cannot believe that this is what we get to watch from a point guard. And speaking of point guard, there's been some rumors surfacing today, a little Keith Pompey action in the Philadelphia Inquirer, talking about Jeremy Grant, a young player, a draft pick, a forward, and then, of course, Saddiq Bey's name gets thrown around. Kelly Olynyk's name gets thrown around. There was the original report from The Athletic that I saw about 30 players that the Sixers would move Ben Simmons for, and, people are saying, hey, is it the best player on every team? And they're just trying to speculate exactly what it would be, right? Damian Lillard, Bradley Beal, but then what else? I'm a little surprised by the Jeremy Grant thing. It doesn't really move my needle per se, but it depends on what the other pieces are. And clearly, a package of multiple pieces and Jeremy Grant, well, it changes absolutely 1,000% depending on what exactly that is. But I don't know. It's just weird. I have a weird feeling on it. It matters. It matters what those other pieces would be. But then there's reports that, hey, maybe Saddiq Bey, they're not willing to go that route. Not the Sixers. I'm saying the other side of this. It takes two to tango. So it's fascinating to think about it. But, yeah, here's Ben Simmons. What makes no sense, and I really don't want to be doing this, but I'm sorry. It's not my fault. This is where we are. When he's out at St. Joe's and he's trying to put up shots and work out in the gym and this and that, I thought he wasn't able to. I thought this was something that is mentally keeping him from playing the sport of basketball, and he can't watch film and he can't work out. Yet he can work out if it's just not with the 76ers. He can play basketball, but as long as it's not with his teammates and as long as it's not with the 76ers, he can do it in an open gym and go to different areas. This is why things are just not adding up whatsoever, and it seems like it's difficult for him to supply the information and the data that the 76ers are looking for to prove that there is some sort of disconnect here with his ability to, or his inability, I guess I should say, to be with the team and go through what he should be going through. It's clearly a mess right now, but I thought that was just wild, and I'm highlighting here what that new news was from Keith Pompey, just to put it out on the table and then somewhat just lay it out there. We'll see. We'll see how this, maybe this is just nothing other than, maybe it's not this specifically, but it shows that there are signs moving forward and there's progress in the department of, hey, we're trying to make that move for Ben, and maybe Ben knows this, hence why maybe he's going to St. Joe's so he can revamp his body and rework his body. I don't know. I'm just speculating. I'm speaking out loud. I'm throwing things at the wall to see what sticks, but maybe there is some sort of correlation between the two. The third quarter tonight, you saw that there was a nice run for the Sixers that really kind of threw this in a different way here. The Sixers kind of took control. And as I don't want to downplay the Sixers because I thought guys had moments, right? Like Tobias Harris wasn't strong throughout the entire effort. It took him a bit, but he had timely buckets. He had timely moments. He had timely spurts. He had timely baskets that I thought were important to winning this basketball game. You look at Shake Milton, I thought that he had some nice moments throughout there early in the game. I'm like, okay, Shake, there you go. I like Shake Milton sometimes with the two-man game. I see some nice spots where he picks and chooses the right decisions there. And look, I'm not telling you it's like the most perfect thing in the world, but there are times a little two-man game. I'm like, okay, negative I'm not loving, and I really don't think it's his fault. I think it's just what happens when you play this role that he's clearly not suited for. Andre Drummond, I think at times he's getting exposed. And look, when you're going up against the Joker, not many guys can bang. Not many guys can hang and be a piece that you go, oh, that was a successful night, right? I mean, we're spoiled in the center department with Joel Embiid that we have that. But, yeah, Andre Drummond, he's not supposed to be able to hang with the Joker. But I just think, the more and more minutes that he's playing, offensively, he has a tough time with touch around the rim, and that's limiting the Sixers. And at times defensively, it's just it's a tough spot for him, because if you told me before the season began, Andre Drummond's your starting center, I go, that's a disaster. That's a mess. That's awful. That's terrible. That's not something I want to rely on. You tell me he's your backup center to Joel Embiid, I say, hey, he can hold his own for 15 to 20 minutes a night and give you some nice run, and he's not worn out, and he's not tired because he's not logging in as many minutes, and he's not playing against number one guys as much. And I think it's just one big, long domino effect that now that he's been getting as much run as he has, you're seeing somewhat of a tired out Andre Drummond, which makes a lot of sense. But I have to throw it out there that, yes, at times I'm watching Drummond and my eyeballs do absolutely 1,000% bleed. Cork Moss went 2 of 5 from the field. He had 5 points, a couple passes. I'm like, yo, Corky, what are we doing here? I don't know if it's the headband, thinking that that's what he's that's what he should be doing out there. It's been a rough, and I don't even know if rough really fully describes how bad it has been from Furkan as of late. So, I guess you see 2 of 5 and 5 points. It could be a lot worse because some nights we're looking at 1 of 92, it seems like. If you look at a 3-game stretch, it's like 1 of 2,615 from Furkan Korkmaz. So 2 of 5 from the field based off of where the bar has been as of late. I guess you chalk it up to just one of those, hey, at least maybe there's something to it. And yes, I'm talking out of the side of my mouth because, what am I saying here? I don't know. Look, and I'll say the same thing with Andre Drummond or the same thing with Furkan as I will with Andre. And I'm not some huge diehard supporter of the Furkinator, okay? But, I mean, the dude's just getting thrown into unfortunate circumstances where if he's a 8th man off the bench and he gives you 12 to 15 minutes a run where he spaces out the floor and takes 3 threes, and maybe he hits 2 of those threes, and then his ass is back on the bench, and he gives you just those handful of minutes, can he survive? Like, yeah, look, I'm willing to give him a shot to earn that role back, and if he fails in that role consistently, and then him and Isaiah Joe can battle it out, fine by me. But as much as I can't stand the guy, I do think it's unfair to expect him to dominate a 32 to 35 minute night of run nonstop, because that's not what he is. That's clear as day. Anyone who thought that that's what Furkan is, that's the style of people that I feel I've been fighting back with pitchforks over the last 3 years, where people believe that's what he can do. No, it's not. No, it's not. Has he earned himself a nice little tiny role at the end of the bench that could play here and there? Yeah, sure. And when Joel's out there, it creates so much spacing for everybody else. Like the man, the myth, the legend, Joel Embiid. Yeah, that would do a lot for a lot of the other guys in the supporting cast that we can't just devalue. So that's why I'm sitting here saying, look, I'm willing to see what it would look like once everybody else kind of gets back into rhythm here. And this was big. And the Portland Trail Blazers, they're off to like a struggling start this season. So, is there a way to kind of, like I mentioned, they stopped the bleeding today? And is there something about a Saturday night that maybe, you end with a couple? They're 8-8, so they're 500 basketball right now. And after that Saturday night game against the Portland, they go Monday against the Sacramento Kings. And just looking ahead here, the Kings are 6-9. And I don't want to get carried away just with one win. They also have to play the Warriors before they come home to play Minnesota. But is there something? Maybe I'm grabbing on to something that's unfair right now just because they won tonight. But is there something to be said about Saturday night's game and Monday night's game where you just kind of hold your own? Can they win a couple games here to hold their own and make this less of a disaster than it is compared to the alternative, which is lose a bunch of games in a row, win one game tonight, and then fall flat on your face just the rest of the way? Can you, maybe it's equivalent to putting the Band-Aid on top of the wound here and just float. Just float is the best way to kind of describe it. But yeah, look, I mean, defensively, I thought that they had a little bit more intensity on that side, and apparently that's something that Doc Rivers really stressed. And transition defense as of late has been putrid. They're missing a lot of their top defenders, though, and that makes a lot of sense. But at the same time, there was a conversation to be had. While you chalk it up to one of those nights, last loss, there's also, and sorry, I'm drawing a blank on exactly who they played. Oh, the Utah Jazz, where they got ran out of the building. There was also an element of that game where their effort level was a little poor. Even with the lack of talent on the floor, they just didn't bring that edge. They didn't bring the energy. They felt very flat. They looked very flat, and that's a controllable. That's something that you can control yourself just by internally digging deep. And if that was the message that was stressed, where, look, if transition D, while you might not have your best defenders, there's something to be said about the willingness to fight back, the willingness to run the floor the right way, the willingness to find yourself, really digging deep and running down, putting your head down after an offensive possession to get back. Even if you get beat, it's about that effort. And who knows, maybe that can translate into forcing the team to make a turnover, and then you're inbounding the ball and going the other way. Or maybe it's a live ball turnover that can help you score out in transition, where you can maybe score an easy bucket, which I thought tonight, they did. They scored on some nice looks early in the possession, and they were able to cash in. And it was a nice shooting night for them to kind of get on the board. And as I alluded to, that third quarter, while the Nuggets couldn't really score, they looked around and said, hey, no one else, if Joker's the only one scoring, can anybody else beat us tonight? The answer was no. You look at some of their bench guys, 20 minutes, 0 points. Who had a tough one there on the bench? It was Rivers had a tough night, 2 of 8 from shooting. Aaron Gordon, I mentioned previously, he had a tough clock in and clock out. So, but yeah, I thought that was big, is the willingness to kind of fight and crawl into that defensively as much as possible in the second half, kind of making it a little bit more difficult for Denver. And I know Malone was trying his best to get his team somewhat sparked up, but it just did not have the response. Sometimes that could backfire as well, where you read that, right? If you're the Sixers and you see, what was that tantrum? In what universe was that? What just was on display there? We see what he's doing. Don't let that work. So now you raise your bar, you raise your intensity because you saw what exactly the other team's coach was electing to do. Don't let that work. You better shut that off instantly. And while the fourth quarter, I mean, you can make the argument that maybe Niang, just looking around in general, right? Late Niang making some turnovers, and they crawled back into it. At one point, they did make it a single. They creeped into it and was single digits and whatnot. It wasn't too uncomfortable for my liking at any point. Teams are going to make runs. It's a game of runs. That's what happens. Especially a team that has a player like Jokic, and just Denver's not a dumpster fire team. They're going to make runs. Hell, the worst teams in the league make runs. It happens. But don't let it get to a spot where you're uncomfortable. Don't let it get to a spot where maybe you're clenching a little bit. Whoa, hold on, fellas. And then you're making stupid nonstop plays. No, they kind of answered the bell from there, and that makes me happy that they did that. What else makes me happy is DeSimone Jewelers. They are my jeweler, okay? I got my fiance's engagement ring there. I go back for her birthday. I go back for Christmas. I go back for Valentine's Day. It's nonstop. Why? Because they treat me like family. You talk to Will, Lou, Nick, Mike. It's nothing but just great relationships, and they want what's best for you. You're not just a customer. You're not just somebody who's walking in there and they're trying to make a sale. They really do educate you. They sit you down. They teach you about the diamond. They show you the difference in the clarity and why you should go with this compared to that, and they show you the shapes and the meaning behind it. They have so much passion for selling jewelry. It really is something that I admire, and they work with you to get the best design at the most reasonable price you'll find in the market. They are located in Haddonfield, New Jersey. They used to be in Jewelers Row, but now they're in South Jersey. They have custom jewelry design, jewelry repairs, appraisals, watch repairs, battery replacements, diamond setting, jewelry cleaning, and more. Make sure you look into their information down below in the description at DeSimoneJewelers.com, but also let them know that Brodes sent you. It is the best relationship I have ever had in terms of jewelry, and there is no way in hell, let me repeat that, no way in hell I will ever go to any place again in my life except for DeSimone Jewelers. So make sure you check them out, and once again, let them know that Brodes sent you. But yeah, I mean, to kind of summarize here as we're winding things down, I look at this team effort and I say, a guy stepped up, and they knew it was getting tough, and they knew it was getting rough, and you have to find a way. No one will feel sorry for you. It's time to turn the notch up a bit. And how about that? The Eagles head to Denver, wax that ass. The Sixers go to Denver, wax that ass. Shorthanded, magnificent. The growth of Maxey is something that keeps me intrigued. I see a lot of Sixers fans on social media, and I totally understand. It's not like I don't see it at all. I understand, but it's like, hey, I can't really get into it. I don't know how you're watching night to night. It's more of a box score check-in because they don't have that fire right now, and it's tough without Joel. Joel is someone that you tune into, and it's like, hey, you have to watch Joel Embiid tonight because he's such a special player. While Maxey's fun to watch grow, I'm losing that I'm losing that itch. I'm losing that I'm sitting on my couch, and I'm making sure that my alarm goes off at 6:45 so I remember and I remind my brain to turn on NBC Sports Philadelphia. It's just not there right now. I get it. But at the same time, like, there's something internally for me that, and maybe it just comes with the territory of what I do for a job, and this is my living, but I genuinely do. While I say 82 games, it doesn't matter, everyone overvalues the regular season, which I do believe is true, there is some part of me that enjoy seeing how do they grind in this? How do they fight through this? What are the next 3 games like? Do they fall back on their face? And when Joel Embiid returns, does this kind of go away and he just takes this team on a ride? And same with Matisse Thybulle returning, and it just brings this different dynamic to the team where squads can't score as easily, and their defense makes it where the offense, there's a pursuit in the offense, and they're rolling with high transition play because they're creating havoc and causing turnovers, and this is more just like something you forget about? Or is this something that you look back at the end of the year and you're 2 game different from being the 4th seed instead of the 5th seed, and now you're playing on the road instead of playing at home for playoff series? Like, what does this mean? How do they look the next couple nights? I'm fascinated on the journey side as much as I don't put stock in game to game because it's more of like a full sample size. How did they do over 8 games? How did they go over 12 games? What is it in that regard instead of like, hey, yeah, they lost against Cleveland on the road. Yeah, well, if they lose against Cleveland on the road, and I'm talking fully healthy, like we've had this debate before, but they won 4 really strong games surrounding that one loss to Cleveland, relax. If they go 4-1 in a 5-game stretch, or they go 3-2 on a 5-game stretch, and 4 of those games are on the road, and one of those losses happen to be against a bad team, but then their next 5 games are wins at the Wells Fargo Center. Like, breathe, and that's the kind of stuff that I really get fascinated with when this happens, and with early stages of the 82, when some might struggle to get involved emotionally until maybe after Christmas, if that makes sense, because everybody knows that the discussion point is the NBA season doesn't really begin until after Christmas or on Christmas Day, which is always a blast. You're right. I mean, there's nothing better than, I always have a debate here with my fiance, and I might have told this story before, but yeah, you know what? Maybe I'll hold that one off. Forget it. I could get myself in trouble. You know what they say, happy wife, happy life. No reason to do that. Look at me, maturing. Look at my brain actually working for once. Huh. It's nice. Huh. Should try that more often. You know what Green should try and do? Not Danny Green. Jeff Green, score a basket. Huh. No, he only averages 8 points a night. So it's not as if my man's a 25-point-per-game guy and he was just goose egg tonight. But he gave you 0. Niang gave you 11. Niang's funny to me, man. The minivan. It's just so, I don't know. It's like, it's slow. It seems unorthodox, right? Or is that just me? Sometimes when he takes it to the basket, it's a little clunky, but he finds a way and he kisses it off the glass and he uses his body. It's just like a slow, awkward style when he takes it or when he makes certain plays, but it works. It works, and he's an up-and-down guy. We'll see stretches where he's awesome, and we'll probably see some stretches where he struggles from the field, but just the watch is very... I don't know, it's interesting to me. It is. So with that being said, we'll kind of shut things down here. I want to thank everybody so much for listening to this episode of Sports Talk with Brodes, and I will see you next time.